Hey, cool cats. Welcome to today's live stream. Today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I decided it would be a great idea to jump on over to 4chan, everyone's favorite hub of intellectual discussion, and take the moment to talk about just to do some TA for people, to answer some questions. And I was surprisingly well received. But my favorite part about this whole experience was answering the questions of people who have been absolutely burned by crypto. Right? Because, oh, they do get offensive when they don't like that TA works, or at least they don't think TA works, right? But, my friends, with a proper understanding of probability distributions, well, you can trade crypto better than anyone else with actual fundamentals could. So, with no further ado, let's dive into these wonderfully worded comments. Just give me one moment here. Beautiful. Very much recommend going here, I guess, but it was pretty well received, so I'm happy with the way things worked out. I did a bunch of single instances of TA. If you want to type this in where the thread is into your browser and actually view it, you can go ahead. That is completely acceptable. Here, let me find my favorite comment. Yo, TA folks, how do you factor in completely unpredictable variables that can't be read on a chart? For example, a whale waking up one morning and dumping or pumping on a dream or emotional shift. How can your voodoo hocus pocus bullshit factor in random unpredictable events like this, especially as they occur many times a month or in a year? I love this question. This is a great question, right? Because the truth is, you don't want to trade those kinds of moves, right? You can be in a nice trend long, and you could be sitting along, and well, somebody dumps their stack of their altcoin. They dump their bags, right? And I think this actually happened to me on Fuel pretty recently. One second. When I say pretty recently, I mean within the last few months. I'm gonna have to pop into the 4-hour chart to actually find this bad boy. It was a good wick on this. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, no. I don't remember where it is. Okay. Point being, it was... here it is. Okay. Yeah, perfect. This is what I was looking for. BNT. Right? So, also, fuck this shit. I saw this coming today. That upsets me. If you see this kind of price action, it's a good idea to buy a small stack and place a sell order at a ridiculous previous high. BNT actually has a history of doing this. I have scalped BNT in the past for doing this kind of shit. However, now you're going to have to wait another X amount of time before the dump. Okay. Point being, how do you deal with those awful moves? Well, that's a good question. You set up a market stop loss. A market stop loss with a timeout, okay? The timeout bit is very important, okay? So, the way a market stop loss timeout is if price crosses your stop loss threshold, right? Let's say your stop loss is at this location right here, okay? If price actually dips below, your stop loss gets set on a timer, okay? This can start ticking about I don't know, 3 minutes, if you will. 5 minutes. It's really up to what you set it as. So if you have this stop loss timer set, your stop loss will not sell your stack until those 5 minutes have passed. And then when those 5 minutes have passed, then it'll market dump your entire stack, okay? Market stop losses are very, 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 very helpful. And the stop loss timeout, that's going to save your life. Because when you get this kind of price action, well, maybe you aren't going to get fucked, okay? However, of course, if price for some reason stays down here for 5 minutes, well then, I can't help you. Right? That's just going to be your bad luck again. Actually, let's go ahead and check out on the 1 minute chart to see how this actually plays. Yeah, okay. Standard pump and dump. But I'm just going to go 15-minute here and check what this previous huge... Yeah, that's just a wick. So a stop loss timeout would have actually saved you in this instance, okay? Okay, and then the next part of the question was, how do you... Okay, let me just read it. How can your voodoo hocus pocus BS factor in random unpredictable events like this? Great question. Well worded. Okay. what you want to do is not actually trade regular price action. You want to trade the counter moves. Okay? So if you see something huge and ridiculous, and I can think of one really big, huge, and ridiculous thing off the top of my head. Actually, you know what? Let's record this into my daily Bitcoin update. Okay? I should just record the biz screen. That'll work out. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hey folks, let's talk about Bitcoin. I was just answering a burning question known as, how does your hocus pocus T8 deal with huge, unreasonable, and stupid moves? Well, that's a great question. The secret is you don't actually trade those moves. You trade the reaction to them, okay? If oil wakes up and he's feeling snotty and he decides to dump his entire bag, well, that's going to result in a huge counter move. USD Japanese yen has an excellent example of this. Okay, if we pop over here, guess what we're going to find? Ah, lovely. Now, you can bet somebody wasn't too happy over here with this huge dump, okay? So, that's considered unpredictable, right? It's hard to predict fundamental news to see large wicks like this. However, it is incredibly important to note that the counter moves are going to be rather significant, right? A re-entry of the 3.2 standard deviation like so, right? A green candle close inside the 3.2 standard deviation signifies at least short-term reversal or lateral trading, okay? That's going to be your brick wall, if you will, okay? Green candle closes inside the 3.2 standard deviation after a ridiculous move. Bullish signal, okay? You'll notice that it really does act like a brick wall for any kind of wicks, and it is a very good tool for taking profit as well, okay? Now, do keep in mind that this would be betting against trend, so I very much do recommend against actually counter trend trading when the 3.2 standard deviation is tagged. However, for taking profit, it's good, and you can use it to re-enter with moderate probability. However, your best bet is going to be trading that compression, or rather, entering when the 3.2 standard deviation is compressing, right? If you tag the 3.2 standard deviation, well, there's obvious expansion of that relative period, you're going to have a bad time, okay? Really, you're going to have a bad time if you try to take a long position while that is expanding, okay? So, after you actually start to see compression, like this is probably the best example here, where you have this nice compressing band, and then you tag the 3.2 standard deviation, that's really your best bet for these kinds of long positions. Okay, next up, how do we actually counter trend huge stupid moves like this? Well, mean reversion positions, right? If we have our longest overexpanded period labeled as the 450, guess what happens when we swap this over to a 450 band? Beautiful. It's a nice day. Oh, and somebody wants me to look at DLT. I'll do that in a second. Beautiful. Okay. So, mean reversions tend to topple on top of themselves, okay? So let's actually look at the 50 band as well, just for the explanation here, right? This faint yellow hairline represents the 50 period. The 50 period's overexpanded, and yet distribution begins compressing like it did so here. Price is forced to revert to the relative 50 mean, okay? This happens with around 90% accuracy. Counter trading these kinds of trends is going to be much more successful than actually trying to trade the news itself. Actually, you can see something very nice on Apple as well. And something like this, guys, if this works over here, it's saying something, okay? You'll notice that every time there's an earnings and dividends report, guess what we see? The 14 period mass reading is above the 0.9 value every time there's an earning and dividends report. Why? Because there's fundamental news, and the expansion of mass is simply the continued representation of news, right? Expanding mass is the alignment of expectations, and when are expectations more aligned than earning and dividends reports, right? So, you can trade the news if you want, right? You can trade those upward volatility pops on the earnings and dividends reports, or you can trade the counter move. the predictable and reliable counter move, right? Since we're using the 14 period wave PM there, let's swap ourselves over to a 14 period band. Beautiful. Okay. So every time this happens, and that 14 period CCI starts to roll up, we see a reversion to each relative mean with very high consistency. Sure, these are smaller scalp positions that only happen once in a blue moon. And actually, this one failed. You would have stopped out of that position. But fine, it happens. And this one as well. Why? Well, you don't want to bet against this kind of long-term trend, especially because we were anticipating a longer-term mean reversion because our 200 period was overexpanded and compressing down as well, right? So there are a lot of variables when dealing with this kind of shit. This bad boy right here, right? 14 periods overexpanded. We re-enter the 14 band, price reverts to the 14 mean, and so on and so forth, right? So we don't want to trade the actual move itself. We want to counter trade it because the corresponding mean reversions are, well, more predictable than the actual move itself. And this one would have actually failed, right? This one, however, nice little pop to the upside. That's good, right? And this is a very short period on a very long time frame, so it's not exactly the best moves really possible. Beautiful. Okay, now let's actually go back to Bitcoin. So this shows up as a Bitcoin update, right? Spicy. This nice new expansion. It's really nice to see how this short-term periods are compressing around price. It does bode well, okay? Let's actually talk about the 1 hour because that's where most of our trading has been done these days. Pop this bad boy open to just default settings. 250. Very nice. Okay, we actually have a bullish breakout. How do I know that? Why is this a bullish breakout? Doesn't look like a bullish breakout, does it? Well, if we take the time to adjust our periods to 110, that would explain why, okay? Let's do that 110 period, boys. Beautiful. Okay. We now have upward expansion of that previous, of that previous longest overexpanded period at this location, right? Upward expansion. And if you actually wanted to take profit on this bad boy, well, 3.2 standard deviation reentry, that's good. And then, of course, we retrace to the relative mean after we re-enter the band, and now, well, it is implied that another bounce will occur. Okay? Oh, look, a trend line. That's convincing. Okay. But really, I do see just a gentle upward trend. Of course, if we get downward expansion, I'm going to bet on a downward trend instead, right? As soon as we get those short-term signals, we just take them, okay? It's a very easy chart. Of course, we are still seeing further compression as defined by our longer periods. So it's really not going to be too ideal to actually bet on a true direction or another during that period of extended compression. Well, in this scenario as defined by the 70 period, so why don't we have that load up? 70? Spicy. And get this, guys, we are still compressing laterally as defined by the 70 period, right? Goodness gracious. How clean. So, yeah, well, we did have technically a breakout on the 1 hour chart. The 4 hour chart is still technically in a state of compression. It is also important to note there is no volatility overhead. Any kind of new expansion from this range is going to be very violent and actually give us a nice sustainable trend, okay? I don't know why I drew an up arrow. It could be down too. And if it is a downward break, we will be going straight to the 200 weekly moving average, just so we're clear. All right, folks. That's it for today's Trading View Idea. It has been a pleasure. I'll talk to you folks later. Have a good one. Beautiful. Let me load up the comments here to see how you guys are actually doing. How many viewers we got for this weird time of stream? 6. Okay, that's my own fault. I should not have streamed at 10 in the morning. Okay, that's my bad. Well, yeah, I mean, there's really not much point in continuing this stream. I'll look at DLT real quick, but then I'll be on my way. DLT, BTC. Right, okay, I'm just going to do my streams at the regular time from now on because, viewership was down. DLT being in a buy zone. Let's go to the 4-hour chart. Not yet. Let's define how far we're going to retrace here. Yeah, that's so far away. I mean, if you just want to use the quad CCI strategy, that would work. So let's load that up. Okay. Really, wait for the 14 period CCI roll up. That's your best bet here. Okay. That nice roll up is going to give you good entry into this trend. Okay. So no entry yet. I would just wait on this bad boy. Sound good? Sounds good. Okay, folks, this was fun. I'll talk to you all later. Have a beautiful day.